This is the Note Closers Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, I'm Scott Carson, your host, and I am jacked up to have our special guest on with us today, a cool cat that I met on the Financial Friends Network cruise. And honestly, when I heard that he was attending, this is the first guy I wanted to meet. And it is so rare to meet somebody who understands the marketing game and things like that. Is doing some amazing things with his own podcast. We'll get to that. But this is one guy that you definitely want to follow and see what he's doing, because he's doing some amazing things. And it's now my buddy, Connor Steinbrook, out of Dallas, Texas, with Investor Army Podcast. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Connor. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Awesome. I appreciate the kind words. Can I just pay you to follow me around all day and just say good things about me?
You have to change your name to Ty Lopez, okay?
or get a bigger bank account, right?
Yeah, exactly. So for those that don't know who you are, Connor, you call Dallas Fort Worth home. Plano, be precise, am I correct?
Correct. Pretty much Dallas Fort Worth, but yeah.
Exactly. And that's a pretty competitive market in today's real estate world. Can we agree to that, man?
Yep, we got real low inventory right now. It's getting pretty competitive. Hedge funds are here. Open doors come in here. So it's getting tougher for investors to kind of find those motivated sellers.
Yeah, but you're not having trouble because you adapt. I loved what you talked about on the cruise ship. You gave some amazing nuggets about going out and using different lists and things like that to find leads or generate deal flow and stuff like that, where a lot of people aren't doing or overlooking those things because they just want the low-hanging fruit.
Exactly.
But before we dive into that, why don't you share a little bit of your background? We were talking a few minutes ago, and you were talking about how you were rock bottom, had to start over. Let's hear your rags to riches story, my friend.
Yeah, so I got a little bit interesting past, guys. In 2003, I went out to school, and I started playing online poker as a hobby, and quickly my hobby turned into my profession. And so for about 10 years, I was one of the top online poker players in the world. I used to play multi-tables. We played 20 tables at a time. I'd spread my risk and variance across thousands of hands, and kind of it just took off on me. I didn't expect to become a poker player, but that's what happened. In 2011, on April 15th, as y'all know, that's when the government shut down these websites. There's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes, money laundering, but the players got caught in the crossfires, and I learned a very valuable lesson at that point. Do not ever have one income stream. So I always preach multiple streams of income, because even though I was a high net income individual, I was a low net worth because I did what most young guys do when they make money. They spend it all, right? So I basically had to start over. I didn't know what I was going to do. I went into the insurance world, didn't like that. Tried to start a different business, didn't like that. And I stumbled my way into real estate. And I made every mistake in the book. I got sued for buying a mobile home on land, where I bought just the land but not the mobile home. So I didn't know what I was doing. And then, I had a guy steal 30 grand from me quickly. I was 65 grand debt, didn't know what I was going to do. And so I use a strategy called co-wholesaling, but we do it virtually. So it's a JV virtual wholesaling deal. And essentially what I did was I built up a big buyers list for free on the internet using certain strategies that we use. And I connected other wholesalers who had deals that had not built their buyers list, because most wholesalers, when they start the business, think the money's coming from, finding the deals, when really those who have the big buyers list have all the power. Mm-hmm. So I built a big buyers list, and I connect other wholesalers who didn't have buyers, and we'd sell those deals, and I'd split half the profit. And the power of doing that is that I don't need the money for marketing. That first position wholesaler's already found the deal. I don't need money for earnest money or option money. They've already got it under contract. I don't even need to get in my car. I can do it all from the office. And quickly, that's kind of the strategy I use to get off the ground.
That is a phenomenal strategy, because a lot of that is how I started with the note business. Yep. It was literally, I would find banks that had deals and didn't have any money myself, and I would just go find out people looking for deals in specific networks. So let's talk about, if you don't mind sharing some of your secrets for list building for those that are watching that, are new to the podcast and don't know who Investor Army is. First of all, guys, he runs an amazing podcast called Investor Army. Check it out. We'll cover more of that later on, but I want to make sure you get those right off the bat for those that are listening off the bat. But let's talk about some of your list building tips or techniques for those that are listening.
Yeah, of course. So guys, the power of your buyers list is, I can't even explain how important it is, because let's take two wholesalers that start the business. Y'all both have $5 grand. One of you goes out looking for motivated sellers, spends all $5 grand, can't find a deal. The other one uses that $5,000 to build their buyers list. But who's out of business, right? So as long as you have a buyer's list, you're always in business because you can connect another wholesaler to that deal and basically close that deal. So the fastest, easiest way to get your buyers list growing is they're not going to be the best buyers, but they're the ones that are out there, the low hanging fruit. Google keywords, wholesalers in your area, or We Buy Houses Dallas, Sell Your House Fast Dallas, Sell My House Fast Dallas. These are going to be the companies who are spending money in your market on pay-per-click ads, or they've either figured out SEO. Now, these are the low-hanging fruit. They're going to want the best deal from you, so they're not going to pay the most for the property. But the best way to go and build your buyers list for the highest quality buyer is to go into county records and reverse engineer and track down the other buyers of the wholesalers in your market. So by doing this, we're tracking the other wholesale deals that come across from other companies in our market. We're going back later to see who bought them, and we're reaching out to them either through social media, through Facebook, through skip tracing them. Because essentially what we're doing here is we're getting the active buyers in our market that are buying from our competition. And some of these big companies have 100,000 people on their buyers list. So if someone's willing to pay more than 100,000 people, that's who's paying the most in your market for deals. So the active paying the most, and that's what we're doing is we're tracking them down to the county records. But we use a lot of different squeeze pages through social media, through classified sites like Craig's page. So squeeze page is a one-page landing page. We'll drive reactionary ads. So we have proactive and reactive marketing. Proactive is where you're actually going out there contacting, let's say, someone on Craigslist who has a house for rent, saying, I see you have a house for rent. We'd like to add you to our buyers list, and we send them a link. Or we can do a reactive type of marketing strategy where we're placing links across the internet and meetup groups on classified sites on all sorts of different social media. And we're kind of waiting for people to react to those banner ads or thumbnail ads that we're putting out there. So those are some of the strategies that we've used to build it quickly.
Going from old school to new school, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, it all works, guys. You can go down to your auctions. I mean, you can go to your REI clubs, but for the most part, these are individuals who are not going to probably close on your deals. They're just going to take up space on your buyers list. So it takes up a lot of time. You can go on, anywhere where someone's got a house for sale that's been recently renovated, driving around seeing signs when you're driving around that says owner financing, these are the best types of buyers to go after. So let's kind of look at the psychology of a buyer, right? So a rehabber is going to pay you the least amount. Why? Is because if they buy the property wrong, they take a loss in the present moment. They actually have to sell the house. So they have the most risk. So they're going to pay you the least amount. And then a landlord can pay you a little bit more because if they're wrong on their numbers, they can kind of get out of it over time and they can ride it out. Where an owner finance investor is going to probably pay you the most because they can kind of play around with the financing, and they're usually the best. But really, the best buyer that you're going to find is someone who finances these deals with their own cash. That's not debt financing them because they don't have the extra $7,000 to $15,000 in loan fees in there. And there's a lot of people that do this. We got a lot of buyers that successful business owners that just don't have a lot of time. And if you can find one of those that's even inside the real estate world, that's running a foundation company or running a contracting company that can do the work cheaper on the house, these people can pay the absolute most for the property because they can get the cost down for their rehab and they're financing it with no debt financing. They're financing out of pocket, so they don't have those loan fees. So that's who's going to pay you the most for the property.
Those are some great tips on some stuff like that. I actually made a note on a couple of those things. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. We didn't implement that our side. Now, you must have a huge team there in Dallas that's running around like crazy doing a lot of stuff. Are you doing this all with your team there locally, yourself? If you do, how do you have any time to play poker?
We do it all virtually, right? So I've taken it to, time is the most valuable thing that we have. So I do it all virtually. It's the most efficient way to do it. So why do we drive out to the two biggest time wasters, Scott, for a new wholesaler, the reason why they can't get off the ground is because they spend too much time on the phone and too much time in the car. So if you can eliminate driving back and forth to leads that you're never going to close, you're going to grow that much faster because, we only monetize maybe 1 out of 15 leads that come into our office. So that means 14 out of 15 houses, we're just wasting time. So the goal is to shave down that time. When we look at the phone calls, we're trying to take a phone call we have a seconds mentality in our office, right? So we want to take a phone call that would take someone else 8 minutes and 12 seconds down to 6 minutes and 37 seconds, which sounds OCD, but if you want to be successful and you want to grow quickly, you have to kind of track these things, right? And so we try to use virtual assistants to do everything in our business, from data entry to data scraping to, building property flyers, marketing the deals, ad posting. You're in the social media space, posting the ads around. We may talk about social media here in a second, but all the repetitive tasks in your business that eat up your time, that burn you out, need to be done, need to be outsourced and delegated to someone else. Otherwise, you're going to sit there. You're always going to feel stuck in your business. And we got into real estate for freedom, cash flow freedom. And you don't want to just get a really time-consuming job for yourself, even though the income's high.
That's true. And that's the second discussion you had on the cruise ship about virtual assistants.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like those that use them, we're the oddballs banging our head, telling people, screaming, do them, use VAs, because they're such a powerful tool that is effective in doing a lot of the due diligence or social media breakdown or paperwork or bookkeeping that most people don't utilize. And you've got an accountant. I think you said you had an accountant overseas that's doing all your books for you too, as well.
No, I actually hire for my bookkeeping. I have someone here live. So,
okay.
but basically pretty much everything, right? So anything that can be done over the phone or over the computer can be done by virtual assistants. So there's this thought process barrier that most investors have. It's kind of the same thought process barrier that they have with, why would I buy a note in a different state, or why would I buy a house in a different state? They feel like they need to have it in their backyard that they can go touch it. You don't need to have your employees where they're sitting right next to you in your office. We use TeamViewer or we use screen shares, just like we're here on this podcast, seeing each other plain as day. This is how I work with my assistants. We can talk on Skype. It's essentially like they're in the office. It's incredible. My business wouldn't even be where it's at right now if I didn't have virtual assistants. So I have 6 virtual assistants that work with us. And it's a great opportunity to grow a business quickly. The big problem for most new entrepreneurs is they know they need to hire someone to scale, but their thought process goes down, I'm going to pay 40, 50 grand for an office assistant, and they don't have the money. So it's either you start out working with virtual assistants, or you start building your business using people who work on commission only. And that's really the 2 ways if you don't have the money to scale.
I'm a big believer that every assistant you hire should be making you 6 figures. If you give them the stuff to do, that you can relinquish the control freak in all of us, because we're all control freaks in the real estate side. I think you'd agree to that a little bit, especially at first. You
want to give them control, right? So I like to hear their opinions on things, and so it's very important to look at like this. So like if you have something, say you want to go with like 4 different designs for just a template cover or whatever, and you don't just say, this is what I'm looking, this is the one I like, what do you think? Because now you're basically making them adjust to what your opinion is. You want to ask them first, what do y'all think? And then hear their opinion, and then make your decision after. So you always want to hear what they think first, have their opinion, because they're part of your business just as much as you are. And a lot of times we're so entitled as a business owner and so arrogant to think that we always know the right answer. But what if you have 5 employees and 4 out of 5 say, we like to go with this one, and you're sitting over here going with this one? Maybe you're wrong, right? And so it's always best to hear from everybody in your office what they think on specific things that you're working on.
I think so, because I think we're a little thick-headed as entrepreneurs. I totally agree with that. There are times I create something and I'll have Nicole or Jennifer in my office, and they're like, no, don't do that, do this. Like, okay. Yeah, it's a good balance. There's times that I'm right, and it works, and at times I should listen to them. I guess every woman would say, guys, you need to listen to us. But anyway.
Well, also, we're running 1,000,000 miles an hour, doing a whole bunch of things. And so, Corinne's my head assistant. She's amazing. I tell her basically crack the whip on me, tell me if I'm not doing something, because I forget, right? And so I give them the ability to basically tell me what to do most of the time, which sounds weird, but I need their input, and I'm open to hearing it. It just helps.
Exactly. So after you lived the movie plot of Runner, and started developing these things and building your list and moving online, let's talk about the impact of social media in your business. How has that affected you to grow a bigger list or close more deals or find more deals, raise more capital? How's that affected you?
Right. So, I was up here, right? I was doing really well. I was at the top of the world, and all of a sudden the online poker set shut down. I hit rock bottom, and it was bad. Like, people don't realize how bad it was. I actually ended up working for minimum wage, just trying to cover my bills for a time period, just because I knew I just need enough time. And so I told myself, if I ever got up, kind of similar to your story, I told myself if I ever got off the ground again, I was going to help as many people duplicate, replicate, and dominate, is what we say in our office, and do what I did. And so I used social media behind the scenes to build my real estate investing company, a lot of SEO and social media marketing. And then when I decided I was going to start kind of getting out there to help people, we started Investor Army, started the YouTube channel, started the podcast, and you're a big, you watch Gary Vee, jab, right hook, that's kind of, so we have, small home study courses that we sell, but we give out all the videos. We put out 2 videos a week and 2 podcasts a week. And it's just incredible when you look at what social media can do in your business as far as generating leads, raising money, joint venture deals. If you're an affiliate marketer, there's so many different ways to build your brand, monetize it. And for anybody in the real estate space, really any entrepreneur in general, if they're not looking into building their social media brand, they're missing the biggest opportunity. They're going to look back 50 years from now and they're going to be like, this is going to be in the history books of what happened during this time that we're living in. It's still so new, even though it's been around for a little bit, but we're still literally on the tip of the iceberg here moving forward. And it's like you're saying, people who are missing the ship, once the ship sails, it's not turning around. And the people who are pushing right now to gain market share in this space are just going to have a huge edge going forward. It's going to be harder and harder to get in and compete later, is my opinion on that.
I think so, because once you have a message and have it developed, who knows what comes out after in 3 years or things like that. But technology changing so rapidly, it's smart to stay on the cusp of that as best you can, so you can stay ahead of the game or keep your market share, because there's always going to be something coming out or somebody coming out with something else, and that's okay. Just the more you can define, I think, your niche, you can really make some things happen. So you do a great job. You talked about, let's talk about Investor Army a little bit, because I love what you're doing with that. So talk about Investor Army. How did you come up with Investor Army? What's the name? How did they get that name?
Well, I mean, I basically wanted to build a giant network of individuals working together and sharing together, and basically just build an army across the country. We're going to have a lot of things coming out here in 2018, 2019 coming forward as we can get to them. But essentially, I just wanted to give people the ability that didn't have the money to get in and pay $100,000 for some coaching program, the ability, if they're willing to have the heart to work 80 to 100 hour weeks to start their business for them and their family, I believe they should have the opportunity to do so. And if they're willing to get on your channel and watch 1,100 videos, or on my channel and watch all these videos, they should have that opportunity. So I'm putting all the content out there, trying to just help as many people as I can. And then the ones that want, more coaching or more help, they can go and buy our home study program. So it's kind of a value ladder that we have. We got all the free stuff out there, which is good for most people. And then we have the small price point home study courses. And then we have, the consulting that they can come to. And so a lot of people come and they start watching the free videos. They figure out how to do a couple of deals. And since we helped them do a couple of deals, they want to come back and work with us, some of our higher end programs. And so that's kind of what we're doing here. But I mean, really, I'm just doing it to kind of give back. Right. So, I mean, it's tough to get that information on a lot of these strategies. And some people don't like what I'm doing because they're like, you're getting out too much information. But you know what? It's all out there anyways. And people have the right to become successful if they're willing to go out there and watch 100, 200 videos. So that's kind of the way I see it.
Oh my gosh. Love that. Totally. Because I get the same thing. Oh, you give too much content. Oh, you shouldn't give that away. You should charge for that. I'm like, man, I'm making enough. My whole idea is to make money on deals, not on education. And some people, unfortunately, out there just making money in education, not doing any deals. Can we agree to that?
I mean, it's like, so I mean, I can always come over here and flip houses and keep rental properties and make money. And so I got to a point where so many people were calling me, asking me for help, that it was just impossible for me to spend my time working with them one-on-one. So I said, what's the best way to leverage my time and help the most people possible? And so I said, as long as I'm not financially hurting myself to create all this over here, and I'm not losing income from what I could be doing over here, why wouldn't I spend some of my time, give up some of my life to help as many people as I can change a generational path, the actual changing the future of certain family lines, right? And so that's kind of what I did. And so now it kind of took off. First videos weren't that great, but it's like you say, you just suck really bad when you start, and then you suck a little bit less, and you only suck a little, and then you get better, and all of a sudden, hopefully you're good someday at what you're doing. And so now I like to hear the stories coming in from people. I tell people I don't measure my success anymore by the dollars in my bank account, but by how many people contact me, say through email or call us and say I've changed their life, or the amount of letters that come into our office with teardrops on, right? So these things that people don't see behind the scenes are why we do it. I get stuff sent to us all the time. So that's what motivates me to keep going and putting all this out there. Because it's a lot of time and energy, but really I don't know what else I'd be doing right now. So we're going to keep pushing with it.
That's a great thing, because there's nothing like I totally get that. The best part of my day is when somebody emails or calls or get a letter, hey, we closed our first deal, or I was able to quit my job doing for $8 an hour because I'm making more money in my real estate side, or changing the lives, making America great again, one house or one mortgage at a time.
I like that. Well, I mean, it's like, look, some of us hit rock bottom so hard. I was at the top of the world. I got humbled. I got my face kicked in, and I didn't know if I was ever going to get out. And real estate changed my life. And there's plenty of houses out there that thought that there's too much competition. It's just an illusion, right? There's deals everywhere. There's no way I could get to them. I don't have that limiting belief, that people think, oh, well, if I share something that, it's going to hurt me. Right. So I just feel that, anybody should have the right to kind of get out there and duplicate what we're doing. And so I'm trying to help as many people do that as I can.
Right. Now, being in the DFW market, what do you guys, let's talk a little bit about that market. Where are the trends going? What are you seeing? Because you shared something a little while ago, how you've adjusted kind of the price point of what you're looking at. So what do you see happening in DFW?
So kind of how my business breaks down is we kind of flip a couple houses, flip a couple houses, wholesale a couple houses, keep a house, right? And for a while we were flipping pretty much every house in all price ranges, but probably, I guess, beginning of last year, we started to see a slowdown in our high-end market here in Dallas. So any house in the 300, 350 and on up, it was the first time in my career, because I'm post-crash, right? So I didn't live through the last crash. And it's the first time we were seeing price reductions. I had actually never seen a price reduction until the beginning of last year. Every single house, even a bad rehab, going on the market, 10 offers on it, in any price range. And this is the first time we were putting up houses and seeing houses seeing price reductions. And I flipped a really nice house I was talking about, to you earlier in Frisco, and we didn't have a single showing for 18 days. I had to reduce that house and sell it for 40 grand less than I thought I was. In that subdivision, we had like 9 active properties, and they were all price reduced. And this wasn't the only time this has happened, this year. We're seeing it quite a bit. So we're really focused on looking at days on market and number of actives in a subdivision when we close on it, because the numbers are the same, say a wholesaler sends out a house that's 250, 50K repair, whatever the numbers are. If the days on market are 90 to 120 for one and 5 to 10 on the other, those are 2 completely different properties, and new wholesalers don't understand that. And they're like, you just bought this one from me last week. And I'm like, yeah, it's a different property. They're like, the numbers are the exact same. I'm like, they're not the exact same. I've got an extra 15 grand in carrying costs on this property. So we've moved away from closing on all the high-end properties that we're getting over 250 is we're wholesaling, because we don't want to close on anything that if we have to get stuck at the top of the market that we can't finance out of it, that it will cash flow. So the average property that we're flipping is probably we buy them for 100 to 125. We put 35, 40 in them and sell them for 190, 220, something like that. And so we're keeping brick houses, the little brick rancher houses, 1985 and newer, 1,300, 1,800 square foot, nice areas that will always stay strong even if the market crashes. All the low-end properties, the little frame houses, siding and frame houses, we either close on them and list them on the MLS, or we owner finance those. So that's kind of how we're looking at what we're doing right now, as far as all the leads come into our office.
That's good, but all the leads get through your VAs, and then they get filtered through to you, and because they've done all the due diligence on the front end side to help you out with that, correct?
Yeah, they help pretty much everything in my business. They look at emails. Like if y'all contact us on Facebook, they're answering, looking at Facebook posts, emails coming through, just because so many people contact our office, and so all the spam gets kicked out, and so the leads come in. So you can have virtual assistants do anything from you. You can have them cold call people. You can have them do seller lead intake sheets. You can have them put your wholesale flyers together. It's really whatever you want them to do. They can be trained to do whatever. They're smart. They're bilingual. A lot of them, they're college educated. I think a lot of people think because the change in money, because over there $5 an hour is not $5 an hour here in America. So they're thinking with our mindset that, because we're paying them so little, when really they're actually making a pretty good wage over there, that they must not know what they're doing, or somehow they're going to be incompetent or something. That's just absolutely false. They're very educated, very smart, fully qualified to do the job.
I can agree more with you. They're just as valuable. They've gone to school and educated and creative mindset as well. Language barrier is not always a barrier. Sometimes it's the 4 inches between our ears. It's the biggest barrier.
Absolutely.
Out there. So they can just much more affordable make a dollar go a lot longer than we can.
I almost consider them family. When you work with someone for so long and they help you, and I want them to be successful too. And so, as we get more successful, I give them more opportunities for bonuses, and I want them to win with us. So as my income goes up, I try to make their income go up as well.
Yeah, that's a great thing. You win by making the people around you successful, and hence you just float to the top as well. Yeah. I have a couple off the wall questions here for you. All right. You've had the Investor Army podcast going for how long now?
So we launched the podcast for probably about 8 or 9 months ago. 9 months ago. Yep.
Cool. What has been your biggest aha moment with a podcast?
Man, I mean, there's a lot. Just the amount of brain power out there. I mean, there's so many different ideas and different, strategies that people can do. But a lot of just, you know, one-off lines. I mean, you'd be surprised how often just a few sets of words arranged in the right order can change your life, right? One sentence out of someone's mouth could be $1 million to you. And so, I mean, it's incredibly powerful. I mean, you get to talk to people like you, Quincy, all these individuals. I'm always listening closely. And I even go back and listen to my own podcast, because when you're doing the podcast, you're really trying to focus on what you're going to say next. And so I even go back and watch them again, not because I like myself, but because our guests are so strong. So I think just the biggest aha is that, I shouldn't be so, I guess, entitled to believe what I'm doing is the best thing out there, that I want to look into different areas, look into what you're doing with non-performing notes, look into what people are doing with mobile homes, mobile home parks. We got a guy coming on here talking about mobile home parks in a few days, all the apartments. It's good to not get distracted by all the different strategies, but hey, be open and open-minded enough to say, maybe there's a different path that's better for me, or maybe we should look into this a little bit more.
Educated, not ignorant, but also, I think that's the biggest thing. You ever watch TV? You ever watch The Prophet?
Yeah.
Marcus. Okay.
I do.
Marcus, I had a buddy interviewing who shared this with that Marcus. He deals with it. He's called The Prophet. He's dealing with all these people that are so heavily invested in their businesses, right? They're emotionally attached.
Yep.
And they asked him, why did he get to, how did he get successful? He goes, well, I'm not emotionally attached. I'm an entrepreneur. The biggest mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make is when the ship starts going south, they ride that ship to the bottom. Yep. They're going down with the ship, and then they run into failures. They run into owing a lot more money. They don't call it quits when they need to. Yep. And that's the thing that he's like, I jump ship. If somebody's going south, I cut my ties, I move on to the next thing, and it limits my losses. And I think that's the big thing about a lot of real estate entrepreneurs is they get so busy doing one specific thing, and then the market shifts, and they don't shift with the market.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, you see this all the time. People are one-trick pony. A lot of people that were buying from auctions all the time, and then the hedge funds came in. Now they can't generate a lead. So, I know guys that were flipping 400 or 500 houses, made a fortune, and all of a sudden their lead source just disappeared, right? So I'm really, I guess because I got chopped off at the knees so hard with my poker career, that I'm really aware of market trends. I'm really aware of, always looking for opportunities that I can stay focused on. I'm not trying to overload my plate all the time, but I'm always thinking, is this the right thing that I'm doing? Should I reassess? Should I pull back? Should I bring in something else? Should I be looking in the notes section? So I do a lot of mobile homes on land, and that's where I do notes. So we'll buy these little mobile homes on land for 10, 15 grand, turn around some on payments for 50, 55. So I'm always looking for those opportunities. And I would never, so I think you're friends with Mitch Stephen, right?
Yep.
And, if it wasn't for buying his home study course, and he was on my podcast, I paid like $300 for a course from him, and I got stuck with the house in a small market that I flipped retail, and I couldn't sell it. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I had an underlying lender. And so what I did was I sold that note, and I sold it on payments. I seasoned it for a little bit. I sold that note. We made like 30 grand on a house that I was going to lose money on if I had to sell it retail. So that's why you always want to keep getting educated, reaching out, hearing other people's different opinions on the business and their strategies, because if I had stayed doing what I was doing, only what I was doing, which is wholesaling, flipping houses, and hadn't kind of focused on looking into creative financing and more different types of strategies, I mean, look at the money right there just from one deal, right?
I would totally agree to that, my friend. It's the biggest learning thing that I've had over the last 10 years is being flexible and changing markets or changing strategies and going from there. Because the last thing you want to do is get caught with your hand in the rat trap versus a cookie jar. And we see a lot of people struggling with that, and they come from just one mindset to they're not flexible and all. But one thing that you have done really well is you have invested in your infrastructure so you can adjust on a dime. Where you're having your VAs do different things or different marketing techniques, or using social media, using the power of your podcast, using the power of your message to be really 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365 advertising for you, and have that strength. I think a lot of people get into something and they don't have that infrastructure, so they believe in doing it themselves, and they keep that rut of doing it themselves versus starting to build a bigger foundation. And you didn't get where you were overnight. You said you started the podcast 8-9 months ago. You've been an active investor for how long, Connor?
About 5 years.
Yeah. 5 years. Yeah. Where you're at today is totally different than where you were 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If you could go back and tell your younger self, because you're still a pretty young cat, one lesson, what would it be?
You don't have to know everything, but you need to be one phone call away from someone that does, right? So, it's important for people to understand that you don't have to take over the world. You don't have to know everything about everything when you're getting in the business, but you need to align yourself with someone like Scott or someone like, Quincy or David Phelps or some of these brilliant minds that if you do need to help with that situation, you pick up the phone, call. That's the power of the network. So if you're one phone call away from anybody that can answer any question from you, you've done pretty good in positioning yourself to be successful.
Don't be afraid to ask for counsel. And huge. How can we help you? How can we help Investor Army out? What's things that they're listening to or watching us on YouTube or watching us, listening to us on iTunes or things like that? What's the best way for them to reach out to you or contact you? Or what's your biggest need?
Yeah, I'm just grateful to have you come on our podcast. I like the space you're in. Have them just go over and watch our videos. If they like wholesaling and flipping houses, we have a lot of videos on there on time management, system management, because that's what really set me free is understanding organization, system management. I'm big into Brian Tracy. Being able to structure your day instead of just waking up and saying, "Hello, world, here I am. Let me see what's going to happen today," because that's what most people do. They're reactionary, or they react to what happens throughout the day. And then you wake up and you have a game plan, and all of a sudden the emails start coming in, the phone calls start coming in, you veer off one way. And at the end of the day, you've been just doing busy work for 12 hours, but nothing's been accomplished. So I focused really hard on producing towards our main focus, our main vision, our main goal, and only want to work on that. And so if I veer off, my main goal is to get back on track as fast as possible. Which I see most investors just not do. They just kind of wake up and the phone calls come in, they react to it. So they're really they're not coming with a strategy when they start their day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Game planning, time blocking, all simple things you can do. And Brian Tracy is the man when it comes to that. Can't get enough of Brian. I tell you that. The same thing. He's helped impact my life and my business dramatically as well there for you. So got a lot of people loving this that are on Facebook Live watching, thumbs up. Steph awesome. Says hello as well, which is great. Guys, you can check Connor out. It's the Investor Army podcast. We'll put a link in the blog and for you to check out about investorarmy.com, right?
Yeah, you can go over to investorarmy.com. So we got the two YouTube channels, Investor Army and then the Investor Army podcast. So on the Investor Army podcast, we got individuals like Scott where we just interview them. It's the video version of our podcast, but we're on iTunes and all the normal avenues, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Podbean, all those out there. And then on Investor Army, it's just me filming videos, talking about strategies that we do, little time management tips and techniques, how to find deals, things like that.
Great. You got 3, 5, 10-minute short nuggets that people can digest and understand and go back and really dive into. I was watching a bunch of them the other day on the flight home, actually.
I got a fan. I got a fan here.
Hey, you got a big fan. Big fan. I will tell you that. Anybody who's put the work in like you do, hey, definitely got a fan. Props and respect for what you're doing and making things happen. Guys, go out and listen to them out there. If you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher or any of those right now, listen to our podcast. Go in there, hit search Investor Army. Go out and listen to a couple. Leave them a 5-star review. Help Connor out because he's one of the good ones, going out and making things happen and really affecting and changing people's lives on a daily basis. And if you can surround yourselves with those people, trust me, you're going to do a lot of damage in life and business for the good. So, awesome. Hey, Connor, thank you for joining us today. It's a little icy up in the DFW area. We had one icicle here, so the whole city of Austin shut down for the day for the most part. So.
Weather alerts everywhere. It's a
dangerous
icicle.
Exactly, man. Well, hey, stay warm, stay cool, and let us know if we can help you with anything. And we look forward to seeing your growth and seeing you make some big impact out there, man. All right.
Awesome, Scott. Sincerely thankful and grateful for you having me on here. And anything I can do to help you or with y'all space, just let me know. I'm one call away.
Hey, same here, man. One call, one text. But make it a text because I don't want to go through the VAs. No.
You're going to get screened out.
Yeah, exactly. Who's this guy? We don't know this guy. All right, guys. Well, hey, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Note Closer Show. Like I said before, check it out, investorarmy.com, investorarmypodcast.com, the two YouTube channels out there. Leave some reviews and go out and make something happen. And we look forward to seeing you all at the top, everybody. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thanks.